How do you know yourself? Not by looking at the mirror every morning, but by listening to the voice inside you when the world goes silent. Knowing yourself is not a destination. It is a lifelong conversation with your soul. And this conversation begins the moment you stop running away from your truth. Most people are strangers to themselves. They know what the world expects from them. They know what society labels them as, but they do not know who they are when no one is watching. Self-knowledge requires courage, because the first thing you will meet inside is not confidence, but fear. And that is okay. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your introduction. Education is not only about books and degrees. The most important education is emotional and spiritual literacy. When you understand why you react the way you do, why certain words hurt you deeply, and why certain dreams refuse to leave you alone, you are educating yourself. Self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom. Without it, success feels empty and achievements feel heavy. Pain plays a powerful role in self-discovery. We often ask, why me? But a better question is, what is this teaching me? Pain strips away illusions. It shows you your strength when you think you have none. When life breaks you, it also opens you. And through those cracks, light enters. You do not need to glorify pain, but you must respect the lessons it brings. Knowing yourself also means learning to sit with silence. In silence, you meet your thoughts without filters. You recognize patterns, habits, and beliefs that no longer serve you. Reflection turns experiences into wisdom. Without reflection, life becomes repetition. With reflection, life becomes education. Another important step is detaching your worth from external approval. If your value depends on applause, you will always feel empty when the noise fades. When you know yourself, criticism does not destroy you, and praise does not define you. You become grounded. You become rooted. You stand firm even when the ground shakes. Finally, self-knowledge leads to purpose. When you understand your values, your limits, and your strengths, you stop comparing your journey with others. You walk your path with clarity. You may move slowly, but you move truthfully, and that is power. Knowing yourself is the bravest education you will ever pursue. It requires honesty, patience, and compassion toward yourself. But once you begin, you are no longer lost. You are becoming self-knowledge. Does not begin with changing yourself, fixing yourself, or becoming someone better. It begins with accepting who you are right now, in this very moment, without filters, without excuses, without apology. Most people want self-growth without self-acceptance, and that is where the struggle starts. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot understand yourself while fighting your own reality. Acceptance is not weakness, it is honesty, and honesty is power. When life gives you a reality you did not choose, the first reaction is resistance. You ask why this happened, you compare your life with others, you replay moments that cannot be changed. But resistance does not protect you, it exhausts you. Acceptance does not mean you like your situation, it means you stop lying to yourself about it. The moment you say, this is where I am, this is how I feel, this is what hurts, you take your first step toward knowing yourself. People often confuse acceptance with giving up. It is not. Giving up is closing your eyes. Acceptance is opening them wide, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It is standing in front of your pain and saying, I see you, and I am not running anymore. That courage builds self-awareness. When you accept your emotions instead of suppressing them, you begin to understand your triggers, your fears, and your unmet needs. You cannot know yourself if you are constantly pretending to be strong when you are tired, pretending to be happy when you are broken, pretending to be okay just to make others comfortable. Every time you pretend, you move further away from yourself. Acceptance pulls you back. It allows you to say, I am not okay today, and that is still okay. This honesty creates inner alignment, and alignment creates peace. Acceptance also means accepting your past without letting it define your future. You cannot erase what happened, but you can stop punishing yourself for surviving it. The past is a chapter, not the whole book. When you accept your story, you stop feeling ashamed of it, and when shame leaves, clarity enters. You start seeing patterns instead of blaming fate. You start learning instead of regretting. Self-acceptance teaches you to respond instead of react. When you know yourself, you no longer explode at every challenge or collapse under every criticism. You pause, you reflect, you choose. That choice comes from understanding your inner world. You know why certain situations hurt you deeply. You know why some words shake you. And because you know, you gain control. Accepting yourself also means accepting your limitations. You are human, not a machine. You will fail, you will doubt, you will fall short sometimes. That does not make you weak, it makes you real. When you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you create space for growth. Growth thrives in compassion, not in self-criticism. The world teaches you to chase validation, but self-acceptance teaches you to build self-respect. When you accept who you are, you stop begging for approval. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that were never meant for you. You start setting boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-worth. Knowing yourself starts with facing yourself. Not the version you show to the world, but the version that feels afraid, hopeful, confused, and strong all at once. Acceptance gives you permission to be human while becoming better. It grounds you, it steadies you, it gives you the courage to grow from truth instead of illusion. Pain is not here to define you, even though it tries very hard to convince you that it does. Pain speaks loudly. It demands attention. It sits heavy on your chest and whispers lies like this is all you are now. But listen carefully. Pain is not your identity, it is your instructor. It arrives uninvited, it stays longer than expected, and it changes you. But its purpose is not to destroy you. Its purpose is to teach you what comfort never could. When pain enters your life, your first instinct is to resist it, to escape it, to numb it. You distract yourself, you stay busy, you pretend it does not hurt that much. But pain does not disappear when ignored, it waits. The moment you slow down, it comes back stronger. That is because pain demands to be understood, not avoided. The lesson begins the moment you stop asking, how do I get rid of this? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? Pain teaches you your strength before you believe in it. You do not discover courage on easy days. You discover it when you are forced to stand up with shaking legs. You learn endurance when you keep going, even when motivation is gone. You learn resilience when life gives you no other option but to survive. And every time you survive something you thought you couldn't, your self-knowledge deepens. One of the most powerful lessons pain teaches is honesty. Pain removes masks. It exposes relationships, priorities, and illusions. You learn who truly stands with you, and who only stood near you when life was comfortable. You learn what matters and what never did. You learn which dreams were real and which were borrowed. Pain strips life down to its essentials, and in that rawness, you meet your true self. Pain also teaches boundaries. Before pain, you tolerate too much. You overgive, you overextend, you overexplain. After pain, something shifts. You become aware of your limits. You learn that protecting your peace is not selfish. You learn that saying no is sometimes an act of self-respect. Pain educates you about your emotional needs, even when the lesson feels harsh. Another lesson pain brings is empathy. When you have suffered, you see people differently. You stop judging so quickly. You understand that everyone is carrying something invisible. Pain softens you, not by making you weak, but by making you aware. It turns arrogance into humility and ignorance into understanding. Through pain, you learn how to be human with others because you finally understand yourself. Pain also forces growth. Comfort keeps you stagnant, but pain pushes you to change. It makes you question your habits, your choices, your beliefs. It forces reflection, and reflection is where self-awareness is born. When you look at your pain instead of running from it, you start seeing patterns. You see what you tolerated, what you ignored, what you avoided. That awareness becomes wisdom. The danger is when you start introducing yourself by your wounds. When pain becomes your label instead of your lesson, you are not your trauma, you are not your failures, you are not the worst thing that happened to you. Those experiences shaped you, yes, but they do not own you. When you confuse pain with identity, you stay stuck. When you treat pain as a teacher, you move forward. People like Muniba Mazari remind us that pain can take away many things, but it can never take away your choice to rise. Pain can break the body, but it can educate the soul. And when you allow pain to teach instead of define you, you stop asking life for easier lessons and start becoming strong enough to handle deeper truths. Silence is not emptiness, silence is information. But most people are afraid of it because silence removes distractions. And when distractions disappear, you are left alone with yourself. That is the moment truth starts speaking. Knowing yourself requires learning how to sit in that silence. Why? Without escaping, without scrolling, without noise, without asking the world to drown out your inner voice. Because the answers you are looking for are not outside, they have always been waiting inside you. When life is loud, you react instead of reflect. You move from one responsibility to another, one emotion to another, without ever understanding why you feel the way you do. Silence slows you down. It forces you to observe instead of perform. In silence, you begin to notice your thoughts, and once you notice them, you realize not every thought deserves belief. This awareness is education. It teaches you the difference between fear and intuition, between overthinking and insight. Reflection is where experiences turn into wisdom. Without reflection, pain repeats itself in different forms. Without reflection, mistakes look like bad luck instead of lessons. When you take time to reflect, you start connecting dots. You see patterns in your choices. You understand why certain situations keep showing up in your life. Reflection turns chaos into clarity. It does not change the past, but it changes how the past shapes you. Silence also reveals suppressed emotions. The feelings you avoid during the day come knocking when everything gets quiet. Sadness you never processed. Anger you never expressed. Dreams you buried because they scared you. Instead of pushing these emotions away, listen to them. Emotions are messengers. They are not here to control you, they are here to inform you. When you acknowledge them, they lose their power to overwhelm you. Many people confuse silence with loneliness, but silence is actually self-connection. It is the space where you recharge instead of perform. It is where you stop living on autopilot. When you reflect regularly, you stop reacting impulsively. You pause before responding. You choose your words. You choose your actions. That pause is power. That pause is self-mastery. Reflection also teaches responsibility, not blame, responsibility. You stop blaming people for your reactions and start understanding your triggers. You realize that while you cannot control what happens to you, you can control how you respond. This realization changes everything. It shifts you from victim mode to ownership mode. Ownership is where growth begins. In silence, you also meet your values. You understand what truly matters to you, not what you were told should matter. You recognize which goals are yours and which were imposed on you. Reflection helps you realign your life with your values. When your actions match your values, inner conflict reduces. Peace increases. Confidence becomes natural, not forced. Silence teaches patience. You learn that not every answer arrives immediately. Some truths reveal themselves slowly, over time, through consistency. When you stop rushing your healing and your growth, you begin to trust the process. Trust builds inner stability. Stability builds resilience. People like Muniba Mazari remind us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is sitting quietly with your pain, your questions, and your uncertainty, and still choosing not to give up on yourself. When you learn to embrace silence and reflection, you stop fearing your inner world. You start understanding it. And once you understand it, you are no longer controlled by it. Knowing yourself demands honesty. And honesty is far more difficult than perfection. Perfection is a mask you wear for the world. Honesty is the mirror you dare to face alone. Most people chase perfection because it looks impressive, because it earns applause, because it hides flaws. But perfection teaches you nothing about who you really are. Honesty does. Honesty exposes your fears, your contradictions, your weaknesses, and your strengths without decoration. And that exposure is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You cannot know yourself if you are constantly lying to yourself. Lying about what hurts you. Lying about what drains you. Lying about what you truly want. You tell yourself you are fine when you are not. You say you have moved on when you are still bleeding inside. You pretend you don't care when you care deeply. Every lie distances you from yourself. Honesty pulls you back, even when it shakes you. Being honest with yourself does not mean judging yourself harshly. It means acknowledging reality as it is. It means admitting, this situation scares me. This relationship is hurting me. This path no longer feels right. The moment you admit the truth, clarity begins. You stop wasting energy maintaining an image and start investing energy in understanding your inner world. Perfection demands performance. Honesty demands presence. When you are trying to be perfect, you are always acting. Acting strong, acting confident, acting unbreakable. But when you are honest, you allow yourself to be human. You allow yourself to say, I am tired, I am confused, I need help. That vulnerability is not weakness, it is self-awareness in action. Honesty also reveals responsibility. When you stop blaming circumstances and start acknowledging your role in your experiences, growth accelerates. This does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing where you have power. You recognize the choices you made, the boundaries you ignored, the signs you avoided. This awareness is empowering because it shows you what you can change. Perfection keeps you stuck because it fears failure. Honesty allows failure to become feedback. When you are honest, you don't hide your mistakes, you study them. You ask why you made them. You extract lessons. You evolve. Self-knowledge deepens every time you choose truth over comfort. Being honest with yourself also helps you set realistic expectations. You stop demanding more from yourself than you can give. You stop comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. You accept your pace. You respect your limits. And in that respect, confidence grows naturally. Honesty strengthens emotional intelligence. When you name your emotions instead of suppressing them, they stop controlling you. You understand what triggers you, what calms you, what motivates you. This understanding helps you communicate better, respond wiser, and build healthier relationships. You no longer expect others to read your mind because you have learned to read yourself. People often think knowing yourself means discovering your strengths, but it also means owning your flaws. Not to shame yourself, but to manage yourself. When you know your weaknesses, you prepare for them. You grow around them. You stop sabotaging yourself unknowingly. That awareness is freedom. Figures like Muniba Mazari teach us that true strength is not pretending to be flawless, but standing in truth even when it hurts. Honesty allows you to build a life based on reality, not illusion. And when your life is built on truth, it becomes unshakable, because nothing is more powerful than a person who is no longer afraid to face themselves. Growth truly begins the moment you stop asking the world to approve of your existence. Validation is addictive. It feels good to be seen, to be praised, to be accepted. But when your worth depends on how others respond to you, you slowly lose access to yourself. You begin shaping your personality, your choices, even your dreams according to what will be liked, not what is right. And the more you chase validation, the more disconnected you become from who you actually are. Seeking validation is often rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. So you learn to please. You say yes when your heart is screaming no. You stay silent when your truth deserves a voice. You adjust your standards to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. This is not kindness, this is self-abandonment. And self-abandonment always delays growth. When you stop seeking validation, discomfort appears first. You feel exposed, you feel unsure, you feel like you are standing without armor. But that discomfort is not danger, it is detox. You are unlearning the habit of outsourcing your worth. You are teaching yourself to stand without applause. That is where real strength is born. Growth requires self-trust, and you cannot trust yourself if you constantly need permission to be who you are. Every time you choose external approval over internal alignment, you teach yourself that your own voice is not enough. But the day you decide to listen inward instead of outward, something shifts. Your decisions become calmer. Your confidence becomes quieter, but deeper. You no longer rush to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Letting go of validation also sharpens your boundaries. You stop overgiving just to be liked. You stop tolerating disrespect just to avoid conflict. You realize that peace is more valuable than popularity. This does not make you cold, it makes you clear. You can still be key. ND without being available to everyone. You can still love without losing yourself. When validation no longer controls you, criticism loses its power. Not because criticism disappears, but because you understand yourself well enough to filter it. You know what feedback is useful and what is projection. You no longer collapse under judgment or inflate under praise. You stay centered. That emotional balance is a sign of maturity. Many people confuse validation with connection. They think being accepted means being understood. But true connection does not require performance. True connection begins when you show up as you are, not as who you think you need to be. When you stop performing, the right people recognize you and the wrong ones fall away. That loss is not failure, it is alignment. Educational growth also deepens here. You start learning for meaning, not for applause. You improve yourself because you value growth, not because you want recognition. This creates sustainable progress. You are no longer exhausted by comparison. You are no longer distracted by competition. You focus on mastery, not measurement. Figures like Muniba Mazari often remind us that the strongest people are not those who are celebrated the most, but those who remain rooted when celebration is absent. When validation stops being your fuel, purpose takes its place. You move with intention, you speak with clarity, you live with self-respect. And from that space, growth is no longer forced, it becomes inevitable, because you are finally living from truth instead of approval. And that is the moment you stop shrinking and start standing fully in who you are, even when no one is clapping. Purpose is not something you randomly find one day like a hidden object. It is something that reveals itself when your values meet your courage. Many people say they are searching for purpose, but what they are really avoiding is the responsibility that purpose demands. Purpose is not comfortable. It asks you to choose what matters over what is easy. It asks you to stand for something even when it costs you approval, security, or familiarity. Your values are already inside you. They show up in what angers you, what excites you, what you protect, and what you refuse to compromise on. If injustice bothers you deeply, that is a value. If honesty matters to you even when it hurts, that is a value. If growth excites you more than comfort, that is a value. Purpose does not start with talent. It starts with what you care about, enough to stay committed even on hard days. But values alone are not enough. Many people know what they believe in, yet they live disconnected from it because they lack courage. Courage is what turns belief into action. Courage is choosing alignment over convenience. Courage is doing the right thing even when your voice shakes. Without courage, values remain ideas. With courage, they become direction. Purpose often appears when you decide to stop betraying yourself. Every time you ignore your values to fit in, to stay safe, or to avoid discomfort, you drift further away from purpose. And every time you honor your values, even in small ways, clarity increases. Purpose does not always arrive as a grand mission. Sometimes it shows up as a quiet decision to live truthfully. People often think purpose should feel exciting all the time, but real purpose often feels heavy before it feels fulfilling. It carries responsibility. It demands discipline. It requires sacrifice. That is why many people avoid it. But the weight of purpose is lighter than the emptiness of living without it. When you live without purpose, you feel lost even when you are busy. When you live with purpose, even exhaustion feels meaningful. Courage also means allowing your purpose to evolve. Purpose is not fixed. As you grow, your understanding deepens. What mattered to you at one stage of life may transform into something greater later. Holding on to outdated versions of yourself out of fear keeps you stuck. Courage allows you to update your purpose without guilt. When your values guide your choices, decision-making becomes clearer. You may still struggle, but you no longer feel confused about who you are. Purpose creates inner alignment. Your actions match your beliefs. Your words match your intentions. That alignment creates confidence that does not depend on outcomes. Living with purpose also changes how you handle obstacles. Problems no longer feel like signs to quit. They feel like tests of commitment. When something matters deeply to you, you become resilient. You adapt. You learn. You keep going. Purpose does not remove fear. It gives fear a reason to step aside. Figures like Muniba Mazari show us that purpose is not about what life gives you, but about what you choose to give life despite what it has taken from you. When courage meets values, you stop asking who you are supposed to be and start living as who you truly are, not because it is easy, not because it is rewarded, but because it is honest, and that honesty becomes your direction, your strength, and your reason to keep moving forward even when the path is uncertain.